681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer Show coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. Half the work week in the rear view mirror. Thanks for hanging out with us for the next 2 hours. Got Casey Gaines and Jacob Beck back there on the ones and twos. JD Picquel from 1-3 Sports talking college football in 15 minutes. We got some sound from Matt McMahon that we'll play a little bit later. It's a What If Wednesday. The Saints are making roster moves on the practice squad. No more Traquan Smith. And, of course, in the second hour, as always, on Wednesdays, the SEC Power Rankings. How are those going to shake out a little bit later? We'll just have to find out. Again, appreciate you locking us in as we start to move towards LSU and Ole Miss. I think there's a little bit of value in going into LSU and Ole Miss, LSU's opponents in games last year and how those matchups may compare to this year. It's the first time that's really been relevant in a long time. I don't think any of the 2020 games you could look at and say, oh, what happened last year? Well, there's no more Joe Burrow and there's no more Jamar Chase. There's no more Justin Jefferson and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Thad Moss and the old defenses in the NFL. So you don't really have much there. And LSU's juggling coordinators year over year. And then there's a head coaching change and there are new coordinators. And basically LSU was not fielding anything close to the same team year over year and certainly had shakeups on the coaching staff. But now, with the continuity that LSU's had, specifically on the offensive side of the ball with personnel and just the staff as a whole, I do think there's a little bit of value if that same continuity appears on the other sideline. I thought there was reason to take things from LSU and Florida State last year. Same way I thought there weren't that many things to take away from LSU and Mississippi State from last year because you have an entirely different offense. But in this case, I do think that last year's game holds a little bit of weight, a little bit, because you've still got a lot of the same characters. You've got Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. running that offense with Jackson Dart and Quinshon Judkins and Jordan Watkins, and that's a lot of the same people on the Ole Miss side. For LSU, you've got the same coordinator in Matt House, and you've got Harold Perkins, who was a big factor in that game, and Mekhi Wingo, and there's some personnel differences, and certainly LSU's secondary hasn't shown itself to this point to be as good as it was last year, but in terms of scheme and personnel, there are a lot of parallels to last year's game. LSU's offensive personnel is very, very similar to what it was last year, and Ole Miss has a new defensive coordinator. You bring in Pete Golding. That's a guy that LSU saw last year at Alabama, but he's a familiar face to this coaching staff. Remember last year, Ole Miss got up 17-3 in the game against LSU. That was right at the beginning of the second quarter. The first play of the second quarter, Ole Miss scores a touchdown to go up 17-3. Ole Miss to that point had gone on two 75-yard touchdown drives, was just dicing LSU up every single way. And from that point on, with 14 minutes and 57 seconds left in the second quarter, LSU outscored Ole Miss 42-17. Jaden Daniels was excellent, 21 of 28 for 248 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also carried the ball 23 times in that game for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. He accounted for 5 touchdowns in the game. Jackson Dart had a really good start to the game, really wasn't very good late in the game. 19 of 34 for Dart were 283 yards. He did not throw a touchdown pass and only 10 carries for 7 yards. Quinshon Judkins did have 25 carries for 111 yards, and that's something that he hasn't found at all this year. Judkins has not cracked 75 yards this year on the ground. So there are a lot of similarities with these two teams, but there are certainly big differences. And so we'll talk about matchups, and we'll talk about X's and O's and injury reports, and Ole Miss just had their tight end quit the team, and there's more meat on the bone here for us over the next 3 days to get to before they kick things off on Saturday. But I also found myself asking the question this morning, who is this a bigger game for, LSU or Ole Miss? And I'll lay out both cases. You can decide for yourself, and I've got my feelings on it. But look, Ole Miss has aspirations under Lane Kiffin of winning the West. That's not always realistic in Oxford. They feel it is with Lane Kiffin at the helm. He's scored points. He's beaten everybody in the West except Alabama. They've been to the Sugar Bowl. Like, with Lane Kiffin at the helm, they have been a consistently competitive program with high-end aspirations. And entering the game last week, it was reasonable for an Ole Miss fan to say, we've got a real shot. Alabama's offense hasn't been very good. They lost a game to Texas at home. They went to South Florida and did not play well. We've got a returning quarterback who's a veteran. We played them close last year, and they were much better with Bryce Young. Like, we've got a chance to win that game. And if we win that game in Tuscaloosa, we come home to play LSU for a chance to control the West. Doesn't mean you've won it. Got a long way to go. But a chance to control the West. And that doesn't happen very often in Oxford. And then they lost last week. And now, if you lose to LSU, your opportunity to win the West is about cooked. There's probably a scenario where Bama loses 3 games and LSU loses 3 games, and you could probably cook it up somehow, but the likelihood of that happening is not very good. So Ole Miss, in the span of 7 days, could go from, man, we really have a shot at this, to what Florida Bowl are we going to? Where are we staying in Tampa? Are we going to the Music City Bowl? Okay? That's what's on the line for Ole Miss. Now, if they win, now you look up and you control the tiebreaker with LSU. You don't think Bama is great. They've still got to play Tennessee. They've still got to play LSU. They've still got to go to Texas A&M. Okay, maybe you're still right there in the mix. That's if you win. Now, from LSU's perspective, if I look at this game, you win this game, you're 3-0. You've won probably your second toughest road game. Bama's tougher, but your second toughest road game. And now you're looking at Missouri, Auburn, Army before the big game against Alabama. You win this game, there's a likelihood you head to Tuscaloosa 7-1 with control of the West on the line. That's if you win. If you lose, you've got 2 losses. You're probably not going to win the national championship. Now, Hester and Flynn were in this studio this morning, and they can attest that it's possible. But you're probably not. And if you're sitting there and you're listening to me and you're going, why are we talking about a national championship? We can't stop Arkansas throwing the ball over the yard. Okay, but it's LSU and it's football season, and until they're out of that discussion, I'm at least going to toss it out there. Now, LSU can still win the SEC. You lose to Ole Miss, win out, and they drop another game, you win the league. And then you got to go beat Georgia. And maybe a 2-loss SEC champ does get in. But it's unlikely, in my opinion. So who's it bigger for? Ole Miss losing their chances at the West? Something they've never done? Or LSU losing their chance at a national championship? Which this staff is trying desperately to do. I'm going to tell you, I'll take just a cold cop-out because I can't push myself in one direction. Certainly, those of you listening are LSU fans, and you think in terms of the way things look for LSU, and it's a bigger deal to you that LSU wins, and it would be a bigger deal if they lost. So for you, it's a bigger game for LSU. I'm not 100% sure of that. Because Ole Miss doesn't often have a team that can compete at the top. LSU, you figure, every 2 to 3 years has that team. And this team, as of 7 days ago, as of 5 days ago, at Ole Miss was looked at, man, maybe this is it. We haven't lost yet. Got a better quarterback than Alabama. Played them tough last year. Like, okay, LSU's got to come to us. Auburn's down. State looks terrible. A&M looked awful at Miami. Like, this could be ours. 7 days later, poof, it could be gone. But either way, it's a huge game because both teams lose something huge if they lose come 9 o'clock Saturday night. For Ole Miss, can you keep a bunch of junior college guys together to fight for a Florida Bowl? For LSU, can you rally the troops back to go play at 11 o'clock in the morning against Missouri and still fight for a destiny that you control in the SEC? They did it last year if they lost to Tennessee. Ole Miss fell apart last year when it came apart in Death Valley in the following week, and all of a sudden they looked up, and after being 7-0, they were 7-2. They lost 5 of 6 to finish. So maybe from that perspective, because LSU has responded and Ole Miss didn't, you could argue that it's definitely Ole Miss. But I guess the point of the entire exercise of who's it a bigger deal for is like, man, this one's a big one on Saturday. It is a big, big game. Loser hits the showers, leaves the stadium, and has some real soul searching to do. The winner is thinking, okay, we're here. We're good. College football is such a week-to-week thing because of the magnitude of every game. This one certainly applies to that. I didn't feel that way entering the Arkansas game. You kind of felt like, okay, LSU's going to handle their business. I feel that way about LSU and Ole Miss coming up on Saturday night. So we'll see. We're talking about it a ton over the next 3 days. When we come back, got J.D. Picquel from On3 Sports, our look around the country in college football. Don't go anywhere. It is the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Get ready to start the NFL week off right, because right now all customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay for Thursday night football coming up tomorrow. Just place a 3-leg same-game parlay on this week's game, and you'll get bonus bucks back if you don't win. Same-game parlays are the perfect way to combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payday. Build your own or choose from one of the popular same-game parlays pre-built for you in FanDuel's top-rated sportsbook app. Visit FanDuel.com/1045ESPN so you don't miss out on your chance to get a no-sweat same-game parlay on America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. Refund issues not withdrawal bonus method. Expires 7 days after receipt. Max refund $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you're somebody who knows the gaming problem wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford is taking $10,000 off MSRP on select new 23 Ford F-150 trucks. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Life in Louisiana is a song. A symphony of sound, colors, and movement. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
Make this summer your backyard party year with Chris's Specialty Foods. Wings, burgers, brisket, steak, and boudin, plus great Cajun side dishes. We do all the prep, and you enjoy laughing with friends and family. Chris's Specialty Foods, Millerville, New Orleans, Prairieville, and Frisco.
Everybody loves Chris's authentic Cajun meat.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch on Palmer.
Join me, Jimmy Ott and Charles Handiger, for the Thursday edition of Live at Lunch, live from Jolie Pearl and Town Square Pizza. We're downtown, Jolie Pearl, Town Square Pizza, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Moving right along on this Wednesday, What If Wednesday, coming at you in 15 minutes. Got an interesting hypothetical from a listener on Twitter that I'll get to in 15 minutes. But right now, we head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline, chat with our guy JD Picquel from On 3 Sports, host of the Hard Count over on YouTube. JD, how are you?
I'm doing phenomenal, brother. How you doing?
Doing very well. A lot of drama in South Bend, Indiana, back on Saturday night. Your impressions first of the Ohio State Buckeyes in winning that game?
Gritty, man. I mean, when was the last time we saw Ryan Day show that kind of emotion? Like, usually he's reserved and kind of soft-spoken and, at the very least, mild-mannered, if not soft-spoken. And I kind of love seeing him cut it loose post-game, man. I love seeing him go after Lou Holtz and everybody who said Ohio State wasn't tough enough. Like, I think, to me, teams take on the persona of their leadership. And I think for Ryan Day to have that leadership maybe a little more fiery and have a little more of an edge to it, if his team takes that on, like, I think this roster is built to go and make the college football playoff. Now, I think you probably need more from Kyle McCord, probably need more from what you saw in that 2-minute drill than what you saw the rest of the game. But, I mean, if there's a scenario you could draw up to give your quarterback confidence, a 2-minute drive to go and win the game on the last play in a top 10 environment on the road is probably the one to do it. So I think there was a lot to take away from that if you're an Ohio State fan, and a lot to build on.
How about for Notre Dame?
Played well enough to win the game, right? I mean, you look at you look at the box score, and it feels like everything favors Notre Dame except for the final score. And if you told me going into that one, like, hey, Notre Dame's going to hold Ohio State to 17, I'd say, geez, that's a big win for Marcus Freeman and company. And I mean, everything that post game is said when it comes to 10 men on the field and the last drive with the attempted screen pass and the negative play before that. Like, there's a lot that just makes you sick to your stomach if you're a Notre Dame fan. But I think as a whole, like, you got to look at where you came from a season ago and bringing in Sam Hartman and where this team's come since Marcus Freeman's been made the head coach. Like, you got to feel encouraged about the progress you've made. So, you don't take any moral victories. There's no such thing as a good loss. But as a whole, if that is the kind of fight Ohio State is going to give Notre Dame, and for them to only fall short by the last play, like, I think there's a lot of good things, I think, to look at. And Notre Dame is not out of the playoff race by any stretch. They got a ranked matchup this week. Still got USC, rooting hard for Clemson if you're a Notre Dame fan. So a lot of things still left to play for Notre Dame. Need some help, but can still accomplish a lot of goals.
I'd imagine Georgia would be the front runner here, but is Florida State the second most likely playoff participant at this point, or are they the first most likely playoff participant?
Man, I think they got to be number 2 at least. I think what you said about Georgia is probably true. I would even throw Texas in the mix there because of just what they have left. I mean, Red River is going to be big. Kansas will be bigger than I think most people want to give credit for. It's a ranked matchup. And if you're just comparing resumes and you're comparing rosters in terms of, like, where do they have weaknesses, Florida State beating LSU the way they did and then winning a game in Clemson, South Carolina, where they run for 22 yards on the ground and find a way to get it done, like, just incredible, I call it response mechanism from that team, finding a way to win on the road the way they did. And Jordan Travis, man, I mean, absolutely tough as nails. This bye week is coming at the exact right time, but we were actually at that game and seeing him just get knocked down and get back up, like the song. I mean, get knocked down, back up again. Like it was unbelievable, man. So Florida State, I think, has to be at number 2, and I would throw Texas in that mix as well.
I realized it was at noon, but how was the environment at Clemson? I've never been.
I'd never been either, so I wasn't sure what to expect. And also, like, everybody's prefacing that conversation around the environment with Clemson of like, oh, well, we'll get back for a night game.
Yeah.
Hey, night game is sick. And I'll tell you, like, I've only been in, so many college football stadiums, but that was as loud in an environment as I've ever been in. So I got to go to Michigan, Ohio State, and that was the game where Michigan kind of handled business in Columbus, so the volume wasn't what it would be. I've been to a national title game when I was in high school, but I was in like the second to last row. So there's some things like that lined up perfectly for this environment to rank where it does on my list. But I mean, my expectations, it surpassed them by several miles. I mean, the running down the hill, the student section being dialed in the entirety of the game, being a noon kick, like it was unlike anything I've experienced. It was awesome.
Bama and Ole Miss. Ole Miss only able to score 14 points in the game. Did that surprise you?
Yeah, it did. It did. I mean, I think if you're an Alabama fan, you got to feel encouraged about the way your defense has kind of been able to hold serve since that Texas game. Because Ole Miss tried to do a lot of things that Texas was able to do with a lot of the pre-snap movement and get them, miss a line and get them out of sorts. And so to see them sort of look at that Texas game, correct the mistakes, and trend in a positive direction, I think you got to be encouraged by. It's funny, man. We talked about it last week. Like, until I see the 2-loss Bama team, until I see a dead body, I'm not going to write off Bama just yet. They've got so much in the tank on that roster. So, Ole Miss only scoring 14 absolutely was surprising to me. I thought that he'd get a lot more. You wonder if Quinshawn Judkins, if he ends up being healthy in that game, could have a different outcome. But as a whole, you got to tip your hat to Bama for the way they responded.
JD Picquel is our guest, host of The Hard Count, part of the On3 Network. You can check him out on YouTube daily, talking college football. I got the announcement today that Connor Wigman is done for the year, broken foot, ankle, something in the lower legs, and so it'll be Max Johnson's team in College Station. How big a deal is that?
Oh, it's a huge deal. I mean, everything that you thought about Texas A&M going into the year as a college football fan was probably centered on your opinion of, well, hey, Connor Wigman is probably going to revitalize the offense. Hey, look how different they were at the end of the year. And so now going back to Max Johnson, I mean, you have got to give Max Johnson some kind of medal or some kind of NIL deal or something because, he wasn't the guy at the end of the last year. Probably knew going into this season he wasn't going to be the guy. Like, in the day and age of the portal, I'm not sure exactly what rules would have, applied to Max Johnson because he did transfer from LSU, but, like, I'm sure there would have been some way, shape, or form he could have found a loophole to get to another school after finding out he's not the guy. So for him to stay, you feel a lot better about him as your backup quarterback than probably a number of other situations. But, I mean, I just can't believe that the Connor Wigman storyline read from, hey, he's day-to-day, they're waiting for the swelling to go down to, well, he's done for the year. Like, that just went 0 to 100 real quick. So as a whole, though, extremely disappointed for him and for A&M, and I think most college football fans kind of feel the same way.
Interesting game, Florida and Kentucky in Lexington this coming week. Kentucky trying to win this one for the third time in a row. They've looked good against no competition, and I'm not sure how great Florida is. They certainly handed it to Tennessee. How do you like that game in Lexington?
Yeah, fall camp just ended over there. They just finished up fall camp, even though it's week 5 of the season. There's a lot of question marks around Kentucky. Like, I think we're going to get a great gauge for how legitimate that offense is with Liam Cohen. I really love how battle-tested Florida is. I think Florida is in a great spot in terms of where they, feel like they're being disrespected and kind of have their humble pie they were chewing on from that first week of the season. It really does, to me, all come down to, can they control the tempo of the game running the football? Because Florida is not an operation that's built to come back from 10-0, 14-0, and with the playmakers Kentucky has, with Barry and Brown and Dane Key and Devin Leary, we know he can deal the pill pretty fairly. I wonder if they're able to control the tempo how they did against Tennessee. So that's going to be a big thing for me to watch. But I'm leaning Gators right now. I'm leaning Gators, and I think they actually end up getting it done in Lexington. Let's
stay in the SEC. We'll go to Arlington. I probably should have asked you right when we talked about A&M's situation, but Hogs coming off a tough loss in Baton Rouge. They've now lost 2 in a row. A&M dominated Auburn. What do you think about the one in Jerry World?
It's funny because last year, Max Johnson, this was kind of his, I don't know if coming out party is the word you would use, but like after this game, you felt pretty good about Max Johnson as your quarterback in College Station. being able to beat a ranked team like Arkansas at that point in time. So I think the thing that concerns me here for Arkansas is they scored 31 points each of the last 2 games and are 0-2 in those last 2.
Yep.
So that tells me, okay, hey, the defense, we got some issues on the back end now. We got to figure it out in the secondary. And if we know anything about A&M, it's that they have some weapons in spades. And they still have a capable quarterback, and Max Johnson is going to be able to get it to them. So I think we see more points, but I think it's close for Arkansas, and I think they cover. But I think A&M actually ends up winning that game in Jerry World.
We'll get to LSU and Ole Miss here briefly, but I want to go out west. Speaking of humble pie, Colorado got a nice taste of that with the game against Oregon. Now USC comes to call in. Do you think that the buzz slows down if USC wins by 4 scores?
I think the buzz, just as a result of them losing 2 games, will slow down. But I think there will always still be a storyline about Deion Sanders out there. Their preseason win total was 3.5. That's kind of everybody's favorite talking point. And so I don't know that we should just sell Colorado if they lose to 2 of the best teams in the Pac-12 conference. It's so funny hearing all of the other national headlines from sports shows that aren't necessarily college football shows that are saying, well, people are out to get Deion Sanders, and people were helping scheme against Colorado. It's dude, Oregon ran power just as much as they wanted to, and Colorado couldn't do nothing about it. It was the big human beings, and we knew that was the issue going into the game, and that was the issue coming out of the game. So, when you look at the way that whole thing shook out, I don't have any questions about Colorado and what they have up front. I think we kind of know what they are. My question goes to USC. Can they handle the playmakers of Colorado? Because Arizona State, schemed them up for all they were worth in Tempe, and that was one of those caffeine specials where, hey, if you were up watching it, you had some pretty good entertainment value out of that one. So I think this is the week we get a really good gauge for where USC's defense is at. I've been slow to hit the panic button on them because it has been so early in the year, and I've kind of held the stance of hey, as long as they can trend the right direction, be ready by October, we're going to be, in good shape if we're a USC fan. But this is the game where it's a little bit earlier than you expected to get a test, and we haven't really seen this USC defense take the steps we'd hoped they would take at this point in the year. So really, really good litmus test for USC's defense. I do think they win. I don't know if they cover, but I do think they win and are just ultimately, too much up front and too potent for Colorado as a whole.
Tigers and Rebels from Vaught Hemingway in Oxford, 5 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. You think LSU goes up there and handles business, or does the Lane train roll?
Yeah, I think they do handle business. I think Jaden Daniels, man, the jump he's taken from last year to this year, and the phrase I like to put to it is the way he's unhitched the wagon in the pass game. It used to be a thing of it felt like he was pulling a trailer behind him with having to do the checkdowns, and he was throwing an intermediate game, and he was slow to uncork it. He has totally revitalized that narrative, the way they've pushed the ball downfield, and I really do think it goes back to the run game. When they're able to run the football offensively, they are as good as anybody in the country, and I feel more confident saying that now because of the guys they've had step up in that wide receiver room. We're really getting to see Brian Thomas, really getting to see Malik Neighbors, and it's a credit to Jaden Daniels, and it's a credit to Mike Denbrock, the way they've allowed him to be comfortable. So I think that ultimately LSU keeps the good things going offensively. And I'm a little bit curious about that second level of the LSU defense. They love to be aggressive and aggressive to a fault last week against Arkansas. Lane Kiffin is going to dial it up quite a bit, I think, this game. And I think they'll have quite a bit of eye candy for them with the pre-snap movement and making them be disciplined. So I'm curious to see how they handle that. This is the game where you got to get after Jackson Dart, in my mind. Kind of how last year Harold Perkins made some plays and was really active in this game. It felt like it was kind of the first time he got on everybody's radar. I think this is the kind of game where you got to cut him loose and let him go hunt. Because if you let Jackson Dart just sit back there and play 7-on-7, could be a very interesting fourth quarter in Oxford. So I'm excited for that one, but I do think LSU just has too much firepower to win that game.
Enjoy the rest of your week, JD. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man. Enjoy the game.
Absolutely. JD Picquel, On3 Sports, host of The Hard Count. Check out the On3 YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. JD does an awesome job with his college football coverage right there. All right, come back and play What If Wednesday on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Ochsner Health and MD Anderson Cancer Center have partnered to create Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center in Southeast Louisiana. This collaboration is going to provide patients in our region with access to cancer treatments that are among the most advanced in all the nation. Ochsner is the first and only provider in Louisiana with a fully integrated cancer program based on all the practices and standards and treatment plans of MD Anderson. They customize treatment plans to the patient. They've got access to MD Anderson's protocols and their specialists and their researchers. Ochsner and MD Anderson Cancer Center are offering groundbreaking research and innovative therapies that include select clinical trials available to eligible patients. Expert care is going to be offered in 7 locations throughout South Louisiana. New Orleans, St. Tammany, Baton Rouge, and Ochsner and MD Anderson are working together to certify additional sites in the future. We're all affected by cancer one way or another, and Ochsner and MD Anderson are partnering together to continue that fight. If you'd like more information on the Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center, visit ochsner.org.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $12,000 off MSRP or 2.9% for 72 months on all new 23 Ram 1500 trucks in stock. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Scucha fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way.
Kate Wazan inviting you to join me along with the coaches Todd Black and Jimmy Roy for the next edition of Louisiana Prep Weekly. We'll welcome in our special guest, Parkview Baptist head football coach Stephon LaFours. Louisiana Prep Weekly, Wednesday night at 6, live from Walk-Ons in Town Center on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jeff G in the Bayou Ford chat says, what if Hunt couldn't wear a collared shirt? Well, that's pretty much what we wear every single day. So we'd have to really rethink the wardrobe and make a significant amount of purchases at that point. In that vein, we'll see some What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
All right, first one here. What if you were playing right field for the Cubs last night? I don't like that one.
I think high school Hunt makes that catch.
I don't think you go 2 for 5 though with a triple.
I do not go 2 for 5 with a triple, and I don't think I would catch it right now because I haven't played baseball in 17 years. But that was devastating. Every single Tuesday for the last 6 months, I have said on this show, if you want to come watch me watch the Cubs and read trivia questions, you're probably going to get some entertainment value out of it. It happened last night. I'm calling out sports trivia to all of Pluckers in the bar. The Cubs have a 6-0 lead. It gets whittled to 5. It gets whittled to 3. It gets whittled to 1, and it's 6-5 in the 8th inning with 2 outs and 2 on. And the Braves hit a fly ball, and Seiya Suzuki, the Cubs right fielder, comes over and I think loses it in the lights and just whiffs it. Cold whiffed it.
He
and
called
cost
off
us the game.
Bellinger as well.
He did. And I went down on 2 knees and didn't come up for 30 seconds. And then literally 100% of the team names at Pluckers last night at that round I was calling out had to do with the Cubs and making fun of me and Seiya Suzuki. It was absolutely gut-wrenching. I immediately had to get another beer. It was just not this week, not at this point. The Cubs, a half game up in the wild card, playing the best team in baseball with a 6-0 lead, and they lose one in the lights and lose the game. It was absolutely gut-wrenching. But to answer your question, I think me right now playing right field, I don't think I make the play. In high school, I think I got a good chance. Now, I don't think.
All right, 1 second.
How'd you deal with the loss last night?
Not very good because I really like Seiya Suzuki. He's been he's swinging the bat really well the last few months, and it's just really hard to see that. He's been a pretty good fielder as well.
He's played great defense.
Yeah, so it was pretty shocking, and if they don't make the playoffs now, that
the Braves haven't overcome a 6-run deficit in 3 years.
Yeah. That kind of feels like it could be a Bartman-esque moment if they miss the playoffs.
That's great. Just bring all the hits back. Awesome.
All right, moving on. What if A&M loses 5 games now playing a backup QB?
I'm trying to think what would they fire him? That'd be 6 losses. Yeah. If he went 6-6, even with a backup quarterback who is a 4th-year player, even though he's a sophomore, if they lose that many games, then he'll be fired. I don't think it matters that his starting quarterback got hurt and is out for the year again. I mean, last year Max got hurt. This year Wigman gets hurt. 2 years ago, you had an injury to starting quarterback. Haynes King was hurt most of last year, but had to come back and play. He can't survive 5 more losses. 5 total. We could talk about it. 7-5 with a backup quarterback, maybe. That'd be a 4-4 SEC record. It would be on the fringe, but I think they would probably run it back one more year with that number 1 recruiting class coming back for their 3rd year. That's what I think.
What if the Ryder Cup came down to 1 U.S. player? Who would you pick?
I think I would go with Xander Schauffele.
Yeah.
He just is pretty cool. He's consistent. He putts very well. Scheffler's number 1 player in the world, but I'm not 100% sold on his putter right now.
It's been pretty bad.
If I had to have a player for 18 holes to play, I would take him because he's going to shoot 68 and I'll take my chances. If I've got to have a guy just to go out there, play match play and get it done, it's either Cantlay or Schauffele, and I think right now it's Schauffele.
All right, this one's from Jacques Boudreau on Twitter. What if you could play Augusta National twice but could never go to an LSU baseball game again?
So I've been very adamant, very open, that there is not any activity or experience on planet Earth that I would rather do than play Augusta National. No place I'd rather be, not 2 weeks in Europe, not meet any famous person, not visit a historic place or see something beautiful. There's nothing on planet Earth outside of like a windfall of cash, which would be better, than that I would rather experience in playing Augusta National. However, I can't take 2 rounds of golf over the rest of my life at the box. Like, it's just, that's too big a part of my life to just eliminate it in full. So as much as it pains me to say, and there's not a lot of things I would turn down to go play Augusta, like I can't give up going to the box in the spring. Like that's a non-starter.
All right, last one here from Twitter. What if the Saints clean house and don't hire Dennis Allen as the head coach?
Well, it looks different. You've obviously got a different coordinator on offense. You probably don't go get Derek Carr. I feel like there was some Dennis Allen sentiment there. And if Mickey Loomis is not there because you've cleaned house, then that's a different direction. The Saints are trying to recreate this Sean Payton era, and it's just not there. Their offense has been bad no matter who the quarterback's been for 2 years. And that has continued. Now, the defense is still great, and the odds are if you don't hire Dennis Allen as your head coach over the last 2 years, your defense would not be this good because he helped put it together. He's coached it, and he's done a really good job with that. So you probably lose some of your defensive prowess and gain some on the offensive side. I think if I just take a swing at some other offense, it's probably more competent than what you've had thus far under Pete Carmichael. It's an unknown. So it's not great either way. It's just you're yearning for those years where you had Breeze, and he's just not quite there. All right, I got one thing that I want to discuss. That's it for What If Wednesday. Appreciate you, Jacob Beck, for making that happen. Somebody said y'all bury, it was Nookie in the Bayou Ford chat, says y'all burying A&M makes me nervous. That was just a what if question. I'm not burying A&M at all. A&M has an opportunity to win every league game on its schedule. I don't think they will. I think they're going to lose 2 or 3 more, but they're potent enough to outscore Alabama. They're competent enough, even with Max Johnson at quarterback, to throw the ball on LSU. I think they can give Tennessee some problems. Florida did. And you saw what they did to Auburn. I think they can certainly beat Arkansas. I think they can beat Ole Miss. I think they can beat State. Like, I'm not burying A&M at all. I don't think they're going to lose 5 games. That was just a hypothetical that we kind of tossed out there. They're dangerous on a week in and week out basis. They're one of those teams that I think right now, as I look at A&M, they're not dangerous to me over the course of 12 weeks. They're dangerous over the course of 3.5 hours. That's how I view A&M. I think they're going to have clunkers. They did against Miami. I think their secondary will get thrown on a little bit. They're still struggling at the line of scrimmage at times. And they'll probably lose a couple more games because that's generally what happens. So I'm not burying them at all. That was a what if that, hey, you've now got kind of a built-in excuse with Connor Wigman going down, and we all know that there's a chance that Jimbo's on the hot seat, and everything's got to be taken into account when you look at what they are and what they could be come Christmas time. So that was just the point of that right there. Want to remind y'all, 104.5 ESPN, along with Acura Baton Rouge, teaming up to honor our military and raise funds for Folds of Honor. This nonprofit organization provides scholarships to the spouses and children of soldiers who were killed in or disabled in service. To donate to this important cause, visit our website, 1045ESPN.com. Everyone who makes a donation will be entered to win exclusive prizes. Fold of Honor, to honor their sacrifice and educate their legacy. When we come back, the Saints are making some roster moves here and there. They've made a few moves on the practice squad, and there's a former LSU Tiger that I think could make some sense for the Saints, but maybe not. It's catching some internet buzz. We'll talk about that to close out hour number 1 next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
LWCC is Louisiana loyal. I'll tell you that each and every day. They've started such a great campaign, Champions of Louisiana. They're doing that to elevate and celebrate great people, great nonprofits, great businesses who are doing philanthropic work and bettering our state. And Marucci Sports certainly falls into that category. Marucci was started in a shed here in Baton Rouge. Now They outfit some of baseball's greatest players with equipment, including the bats that they use each and every day. But it's not just a bat-making operation. They've got the Baseball Performance Lab. Through pioneering initiatives like that, they've expanded their workforce by 137%. What do we always hear like politicians talk about Louisiana? We're trying to keep our talent here and attract new talent to Louisiana, and Marucci certainly does that. And they're also a tourism boon for us. Marucci World Series, thousands of youth athletes, families, coaches come to Baton Rouge every summer for the Marucci World Series. If you know of a champion of Louisiana like Marucci Sports, go to lwcc.com/champions. You can look at all the champions that they've highlighted over the years, or you can nominate a new one. LWCC wants to tell their story, and we can help them do that. Marucci Sports is a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Bayou Ford is taking $10,000 off MSRP on select new 23 Ford F-150 trucks. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, in Baton
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you.
Tune in this Sunday as we bring you a trio of NFL games, starting with our noon kickoff, the Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills. Then immediately following, we'll bring you the Raiders and Chargers before our nightcap, the Kansas City Chiefs and the New York Jets, here on 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Well, Saints talk here to finish up hour #1. The Saints have made some moves over the last 24 hours with their roster. Traquan Smith and Kirk Merritt have both been cut. And I'm a little surprised that Traquan Smith was released from IR because it's Traquan Smith, not because of what the Saints roster looks like, because he was basically inactive all of camp in the preseason, and we saw some of the depth that emerged for the Saints at wide receiver, and I'm like, this looks like the end. And then they'd had their final cuts, and look at, nope, Traquan made it. But you look at Olave and Thomas and Shaheed, who are clearly your top three, and then you've got Kirkwood and A.T. Perry and Lynn Bowden Jr., and then you've got Shaq Davis on the practice squad, and that's just a really deep and talented room. And Traquan Smith has essentially carved out a niche on this roster as basically a blocker. And is that valuable enough to put him on the team? It's valuable. There's no doubt that having a wide receiver who's a quality blocker on the edge is very good, especially when you've got guys that you want to get the ball to quickly, like Shaheed and Kamara, and you want to get them on the edge. But when you start to look at the talent that they've assembled and the depth there, it's like, okay, that makes a ton of sense. And Kirk Merritt's just kind of been a nice guy to have around. He played some wide receiver. He can help you at running back. He can do some things on special teams. But, again, the Saints look to be kind of manipulating the roster a little bit to potentially make some additions. And the question is, like, what addition would they go make? And I saw an interesting name that popped up on the old interwebs, the name that you'll be familiar with here in this market, because he played high school here and he played college here. It's La'el Collins. Now, La'el has been dealing with injuries for the majority of his NFL career. He had a really good run with the Cowboys, played a lot of guard for them, kicked out and played some right tackle. The Bengals signed him. He played some right tackle for them. Then he got hurt. He's dealt with back injuries and knee injuries, and it's been a tough go over the last 4 years for La'el Collins. But you understand that the Saints have had massive issues at the offensive line. So does La'el Collins make sense as a guy to bring in? Well, here's the deal. La'el Collins has spent his most recent time in the NFL at right tackle. If there's one spot on the offensive line you're not moving, it's right tackle. I don't think you're moving Ramczyk over to left tackle, even if Penning is struggling. That would be a Hurst situation. Ramczyk's your right tackle, and that's what La'el has played. Now, he's played some guard as well, but you also have options at guard that you've invested in. And so I don't know if it's a great fit from a roster perspective, and I don't know how healthy he is to contribute. So I wouldn't be against the Saints finding another option on the offensive line because what they've got right now hasn't been working. But I don't know that a mainly right tackle with some swing possibilities is the best option. I don't know what you do with Hurst and Pete, and you've got Saldiveri that you think is going to be a good player that you just drafted this year, and you've got Ramczyk, and it's a mess, but I don't think it gets cleaned up with La'el Collins. I don't mind them going to get a new offensive lineman, but here's really the crux of the situation with the Saints offensive line. The guys they're putting out there have to play better. That's the answer. It's not necessarily free agency. It's not bringing a rookie up in Saldiveri and putting him in there. It's hey, you five guys that we've invested high draft picks and contract extensions and lots of dollars, you got to do a better job. I don't have another way to say it. So you can scour free agency and look at the waiver wire and look at guys that may be available. And I'm not telling you not to do that because it would behoove you to survey all options. But the best option is going to be, hey, all you guys that we took in the first round, figure it out. And maybe they don't. And if they don't, then they won't be very good this year. If they do, they've got a chance to be a team that's playing real meaningful football in January. They're not great at quarterback, and they may not have the best play caller in the league, but if they block better, they'll have a real chance because you're not asking this offense to go out there and get you 35. You don't have to look like the Dolphins, okay? You've just got to be competent. You've got to move the ball. You got to score in the red zone. You got to put up 24 points. If you put up 24 points over the last 11 games, you'd be 11-0. So we'll see if the Saints are making some roster moves to try to go do something in free agency. I just think they got to play better on the offensive line. That's where I'm settled on this deal. So Saints and Bucks coming up at noon on Sunday from the Dome. That's about it here for a first hour on this Wednesday. Let me remind you that 104.5 ESPN and Citizens Bank and Trust are looking for the ultimate tailgate. Snap a pic of your setup and upload it to 1045ESPN.com for a chance to win a $500 Rouse's gift card. Our judges will select a winner on September the 29th. It's the ultimate tailgate giveaway from Rouse's Markets, Citizens Bank and Trust, and 1045 ESPN. Hour number 1 in the books. Open things up talking about LSU and Ole Miss. Who is this a bigger game for? I kind of sat on the fence on that one, but either way you slice it, it's a big, big game for both. JD Picquel from On3 Sports was with us, as he is every single Wednesday at 1:15, talking about the big matchups in college football from over the weekend and previewing the weekend to come. It was a What If Wednesday. What if I got to play Augusta, but I couldn't go to any more LSU baseball games? I got to reserve my time at the box, so I'm going to have to pass on Augusta very, very sadly. But there are other questions there on that What If Wednesday. You can catch all that on 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, or on YouTube. Anywhere you catch your stuff on demand, you can catch us. We invite you to subscribe to Hunt on LSU and Hunt on Saints as well. Get you your Saints and LSU football right to your homepage on YouTube. We'll take a time out. Come back. We got some sound from Matt McMahon, some more LSU football. Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $12,000 off MSRP or 2.9% for 72 months on all new 23 Ram 1500 trucks in stock. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Scooncha fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
It was a humid day. Barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. Breaking news, Dame time's over in Portland. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting Damian Lillard has been traded to the Bucks in a 3-team deal. Also includes Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton to the Blazers, Phoenix acquiring 4 players, Yusuf Nurkic among them. The Bucks certainly showed one thing to superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo here, explains ESPN's Brian Windhorst.
They increased their chances, very much increased their chances to stay relevant. If you look at what Giannis's words were when he gave those several interviews over this last month or so, what he said was he wanted to see an organization that was all in, 100% in on winning. I think the Bucks have already been there during his tenure. This only reinforces it.
Brian Windhorst on Carlin versus Joe. Michigan State fired football coach Mel Tucker for cause. He's under university investigation for a sexual misconduct complaint. By firing him for cause, Michigan State attempting not to pay Tucker any of the nearly $79 million left on his deal. Raiders QB Jimmy Garoppolo still in concussion protocol, uncertain Sunday against the Chargers.
Hey, it's Michelle Smallman. Coming up Thursday, I'll tell you what's at stake in a weekend full of huge divisional matchups. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2 on a Wednesday. Half the work week in the rearview mirror, officially working towards the weekend. We like that. We Tigers and Rebels coming up 5 o'clock from Vaught-Hemingway Stadium up in Oxford. We'll hear from some LSU players coming up in the next segment. But right now, I do want to start with LSU hoops because the Tigers started on the practice floor yesterday, year 2 of the Matt McMahon era, about to get underway. And he met with the media for a long time, gave some thoughts on a number of different things. And the first was the fact that now his team and his program can push off the dock without the big bad wolf, the NCAA, lurking as they have been for the last 5 years.
Oh, it's more than a weight lifted off. I mean, that's a 5-year process. And so I think, we served the vast majority of those penalties in the previous calendar year. And now it's a level playing field. We can move the program forward. We were able to use the transfer portal, I think, to provide some stability within our roster and get some experience and some proven all-conference players from other places. And now it enables us to hopefully go out and recruit the best high school players in the country with all those sanctions in the past.
I know because of the way the season went last year and because of the program that was prior to the NCAA cutting its head off, that there are a majority of you who have a level of apathy towards this entire thing. I know that. And I'm a radio talk show host his job is to keep you entertained and interested and informed and all those kind of things. And I know you'd much rather hear about Ole Miss and the football game, which we'll talk about here in 10 minutes, than this. But I do want to say this. Like, Matt McMahon's first year, in my opinion, doesn't hold much weight. His second year will. And his third year must. Because in this sport where you only need 7 guys, you can go get 7 guys whenever you need 7 guys. You can go get them from Morehead State. You can go get them from Villanova. You can go get them from high school. You can go get them from UCLA. You can go get them from anywhere. And that's got to happen moving forward. This NCAA thing, and Matt McMahon kind of downplayed it when he took the job and downplayed it when things were bad last year and didn't really talk much about it. But you heard it there saying, look, it's more than a weight lifted off our shoulders. It's the whole deal. And I believe that. So while I don't love going 2-16 or whatever it was, I blocked it out of my brain. I think it was 2-16. It might have been 3-15. Who cares? It was terrible. That's a pass. All right, on to the next one. This needs to look better. And I truly believe that it will. How much better really is the question. And while that big NCAA weight is lifted off the program, there's still one more NCAA issue that they're waiting to hear on, and that is the waiver status of guard Jalen Cook. You'll remember that Jalen started here at LSU as a freshman. Well, he started his career. He didn't start on the floor. Started his career at LSU as a freshman, moved over to Tulane, was an all-conference player there, and now he's come back. That's his second transfer. The question is he going to be eligible?
Well, really talented player, especially at the point guard position. A guy who scored over 1,000 points in his career. I think he was the second leading sophomore scorer in the country last season at 20 points a game. But then on top of that, the last 2 years, he's been top 5% in the country in assist rate. So he's a guy who can create his own offense, whether that's one-on-one off the dribble or out of ball screens and handoffs, not only for himself but for his teammates.
He's a big deal. And I'll just be really honest at this point, because they haven't heard back from the NCAA. The NCAA is dealing with other sports, wanted to get football put to bed and the whole deal, and so they haven't heard about Jalen Cook's eligibility standards. I'm just looking around the country. I'm not looking at inside information. I don't have sources in the NCAA. I'm not talking to sources within LSU's program. The only time I checked on that with LSU's program, they said, yeah, we expect him to be eligible. We just haven't heard yet. Here's what I know. At North Carolina, Tez Walker, who transferred twice, one after a school dropped football because of COVID, he tried to transfer for a second time and play. The NCAA said no. That's when Matt Brown threw a fit and Jay Billis threw a fit and everybody threw a fit because Tez Walker wasn't ruled eligible. The LSU season opening game was against Florida State. Their defensive tackle, Darren Jackson, transferred a second time. Ailing mother, wanted to be close to home. NCAA said, nope. These second-time transfers are not being looked upon kindly. You better have a damn good reason why you're transferring a second time and want to be immediately eligible. We're letting everybody do whatever they want one time, and you can. And Jalen, Eric Gaines is kind of taking some of your playing time, and you're not thrilled right there in Baton Rouge, and you just want to go over to Tulane. That's great. Play away. You're an all-conference player in the American. Great. You want to turn back around and go back to LSU 2 years later? Probably going to have to sit. That's the way I feel. I will be pleasantly shocked if Jalen Cook's eligible. That's my opinion. And that's based on mainly these two instances, Tez Walker and Darren Jackson. I can't name anyone that's gotten the waiver because I didn't look for it. But I know the ones that haven't, and they've made some waves, and I just fail to see where Jalen Cook's situation is different. Now, if they've laid something out to the NCAA with medical issues or hardships of some sort that meet the criteria the NCAA has put forth that I don't know about, then I'll just stand up here and say, yeah, my feeling was dead wrong. And I would love that because I think he's a really good player, and I think this team needs him a ton. My opinion, based on zero inside information, is that Jalen Cook is not going to be eligible. Purely my opinion. But we'll see. Question is, what does the guard play look like in summation? And Matt McMahon talked about that yesterday.
The guard play has been solid. I think you're always looking for guys to take a big jump. I think Trey Hannibal, being a returning guard, is a guy who was an SEC player of the week. I think a big key for him is consistency. You have Imwani Wilkinson back from the injury. I think him going into his fourth year is poised to have a good season. Tyrell Ward needs to take a huge jump as we go from year one to year two, and historically players have done that in our program. And then through the portal, we were able to add transfer guards that I think really talented, provide perimeter shooting from behind the three-point line, and obviously the ability to take care of the basketball. And then in this league, better be able to defend on the perimeter or you're in big trouble. So still work in progress there, but I'm excited about the pieces we have.
Look, I'm not going to go through the entire backcourt there, but I mean, Imwani Wilkinson and Trey Hannibal are very, very veteran players who are limited. Imwani Wilkinson doesn't handle the ball. He's a 3-and-D guy who can make corner threes and play defense and rebound, which is something you'd like to have. And Trey Hannibal can get to the rim, but he can't shoot a lick, so he's a little easier to defend. He's going to have to pass the ball as well as he did in the Bahamas, or else he's kind of a hustler and an old guy, but not a hugely valuable piece. Tyrell Ward's the guy that's got to take a jump. Last year, he shot it really well. That was really all he could do. Didn't defend very well, couldn't create anything, couldn't pass. He's got to take a huge jump, and that's what Matt McMahon's talking about there. But without Jalen Cook as your primary ball handler and a guy who can shoot 37, 38% from three, you're leaning on some guys who are going to have to be better than they've been in their college careers. And we'll see if that becomes the case. So the question is, like, what are the goals for the season? I'll give mine, but Matt McMahon kind of laid his out.
Just want to get better. I mean, want to get better and take these talented players we've been able to bring in and build them into a team and max that opportunity out. Really, for me, I always say it, this is once in a lifetime opportunity to be at a place like LSU. I don't spend any time living in the past of the first year here. I think we all know the circumstances, and now's the opportunity to move the program forward.
And I think they need to move it forward this year. You win 4 or 5 league games, I think that's a big disappointment. You start talking about 7, 8, 9 league wins, now you're cooking. And you're starting to move things in the right direction. You got a big commitment from a nice high school prospect in Robert Miller last week. And how can you keep moving it forward via the high school recruiting and the transfer portal? I don't expect this to be an NCAA tournament team. I don't expect this to be a top half of the SEC team as I see it right now. And certainly if you don't have Jalen Cook, it looks a little bit more bleak than that. But I hope they get better. I hope they show some improvement. I hope they're more competitive than they were the vast majority of last year. I thought they'd be in games last year. Turns out they just had very poor guard play. And I overestimated just about everyone except KJ Williams. And that happens when you bring guys from a lower level. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But LSU's got to move the program forward this year. That doesn't mean you got to get to the tournament, you got to get to the Sweet 16. That means you need to be competitive way more than you're not in SEC games, and you need to win more than 5 or 6 of them. So we'll see what the Tigers can do. They're on the practice floor yesterday, and I'm excited to watch them play in the PMAC coming up in November. So we'll move forward on to football. We'll hear from some LSU players who met with the media yesterday, and certainly want to get to our SEC Power Rankings, which are just 15 minutes away. Don't go anywhere. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electric. Boudreaux's Electric can help you out during storm season, even if it's not storm season. We got power outages all the time in our area because of the severeness of some of these afternoon showers that we can get. Just protect yourself from that with a Generac generator from Boudreaux's Electric. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. Let Boudreaux's come out, give you that consultation. They say, what do you want? You want to power your entire home if the power goes out? They can do that. Do you want to just make sure that the fridge and freezer are running so all your food doesn't spoil? Make sure the AC's cooking there so you're cool inside the house, and that's fine with you? They can do that as well. And every single Generac generator that Boudreaux's Electric sells you comes with a free 10-year warranty. Neil and Melissa Boudreaux been operating Boudreaux's Electric for 40 years. Give them a call. It's the same number they've had for 40 years. 985-397-1562. 985-397-1562. Get that Generac generator with the free 10-year warranty over at Boudreaux's Electric.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Scooncha fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, They've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of Front to Back Boat Service.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
Life in Louisiana is like a run-on sentence. A poem that doesn't rhyme. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly...
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. Russ Mitchell of College Football News joins us to preview the weekend ahead in the SEC, and we'll take a closer look at the Bucks. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Playing in the SEC is tough, and especially going on the road playing in the SEC. So at the end of the day, I'm really confident in our offense. I'm really confident in the defense, and overall, I'm really confident in the coaches and in our preparation. You know, at the end of the day, all we can do is focus on and control what we can control at the end of the day. You know, and I feel like it's always going to be the way that we prepare. If we go out and prepare hard this week, the outcome going to show in the game. If we don't, then it's after the game, and we got to reflect on what we didn't and what we did do wrong throughout the week.
That's LSU running back Logan Diggs talking about heading back on the road in SEC play. Tigers fared well in the state of Mississippi on the road a couple weeks ago against Mississippi State. They'll have to take on the Ole Miss Rebels this week. And it's interesting because Lane Kiffin's MO in Oxford has been the ground game since he got there. It was a little more high-flying in Tuscaloosa. They had a little more weapons on the outside, but they've been at their best when they've been running the football. And when you look back at Quinshon Judkins' freshman year, it was sensational. I mean, he was just phenomenal. 1,400 yards, 16 touchdowns. He ran for 214 on Arkansas, 205 on A&M, ran for 140 on Tulsa, ran for 106 on Kentucky, ran for 139 on Auburn, 111 on LSU. Like, he was great start to finish. And there's just been nothing there for him this year, which is stunning because most of the offensive line is back and his quarterback is returning. It's not like they had a great quarterback last year and now they've got a terrible quarterback, so they're just all keying on the run. It's the same guy, same play caller. But you look up and Mercer, 13 carries for 60 yards. Tulane, 18 carries, 48 yards. That's 2.7 yards per carry. Georgia Tech, 13 carries for 37 yards. And then at Alabama last week, 13 carries for 56 yards. They just have not gotten the ground game going at all through a month. And it's surprising to me. Braden Swenson, LSU defensive lineman, gave his thoughts.
You got to have the edges set. Once you have an edge, everything come along with it. You know, we got a dominant D-line up front. We got Jordan Jefferson. We got Mason Smith, you know, Wingo, a whole bunch of guys up there that's ready to hold it down. And only thing it is about just controlling the line of scrimmage and really just setting edges and just playing with grit. That's really all it is.
You need to set some edges and play with grit, if that's all it is. Because, you know, when I think of Lane Kiffin, I think of running it with tempo. Tempo. And they run it for 6 yards, line up again, run it for 6 more, line up again, run it for 12 more, line up again, run it for 5 more, line up again, run it for 18 more. Like that's what he wants to do. And at times, they've imposed their will on teams. Last year, it just happened to be right at the beginning of the game against LSU, but they had 2 consecutive 75-yard touchdown drives. Now, they went for a couple of fourth downs there, which they do. They hit a big play down the seam to the tight end, which they do. But the run game has been so very good during Kiffin's time there, and when it's gone south, like, they haven't been able to move the ball or score points. Scored 10 points on Alabama. They were limping through the Tulane game and finally broke through in the fourth quarter and imposed their will, and they got up to 37 points. But it just hasn't quite looked the same, and that's interesting. Now, I mentioned at the top of the show Ole Miss against LSU last year, and Jackson Dart as a runner was not really a threat against LSU. He was pretty much a passer in that game. That has changed this year. Jackson Dart is certainly running the ball significantly more than he did last year. He's, in fact, their leading rusher at 219 yards through 4 games. He also had a 68-yard run, which helps those odds a little bit. But Swinson spoke about defending Jackson Dart, the quarterback.
We got to do a great job of just having the cage rush and just caging them in with our pass rush, really. You know, we got great guys that's going to get back there to them. But really, we just got to focus on just pass rush and just keeping our rush lanes for real and just holding it.
It's interesting because LSU, we think, is vulnerable in the secondary. We may know, but we certainly think. And so you may want to just keep Jackson Dart in the pocket and not rush up the field too much. And that sounds good. When I say that, you probably think of the way that John Chavis handled Johnny Manziel. But when John Chavis did that with Johnny Manziel, he did that with a secondary that included Thorold Simon and Eric Reed and pros like that. He did that with elite-level corner play, Tre'Davious White, Jalen Mills. These are NFL guys. So they're going to be able to cover as long as you don't let Johnny do anything crazy. Well, do you trust LSU's DBs right now to run with those Ole Miss receivers if the pass rush is just trying to keep Jackson Dart in the pocket and not let him break contain? I don't. And so that's where, as a defensive coordinator and you're Matt House, you look and go, well, we probably got to go get him. We got to crank up the pass rush. We got to send Perkins. We got to send Womack. We got to send blitzers and get Wingo up the field. And so if you do that, you may leave some lanes for Jackson Dart to kind of leak out and bust a play. But it's a double-edged sword. Like you've got to give something. Either you give more time by doing that muddle rush and keeping everybody in front of you, and you allow more time for routes to develop and more time for the receivers to run, or you've got to give some rush lanes because you're flying up the field trying to get to the quarterback, to force a pressure, to force a bad decision, to force a sack, to force a turnover. And in the course of rushing up the field and trying to get there, you allow potentially a running threat to hurt you. It's right there with KJ Jefferson when he rolled out to his right after some pressure and LSU didn't plaster in the back end and he threw it down there for a touchdown. It's a conundrum for Matt House because of the way that you've covered. Now, they got home against Will Rogers, and they covered long enough, and they got pressure, and Will Rogers didn't get out and hurt you because he's not really capable of that. Dart is. Travis is. Jefferson is. Those guys scored a lot of points on LSU. We'll see if Dart does. That's a concern for me. The athletic quarterback who can extend plays and make your secondary, which is vulnerable, cover longer than it needs to or can. That's issue number one I see. It's not that LSU simply can't run with a guy running a post route or can't defend a slant. It's that big plays can show up if the mobile quarterback makes these guys cover for 5 or 6 seconds. And Jordan Travis showed it, and KJ Jefferson showed it. And Jackson Dart has that ability. He didn't do it a lot last year. He's doing it now because they can't run the ball, and basically the games are being placed in his lap. Now, Lane Kiffin's going to try to run it to start. And he'll try to give it to Judkins, and they'll try to hammer away. But if that doesn't work, then you toss the game into Jackson Dart's lap, and you see if that's the ticket. Either way, and this is what it's always come back to for me over the last 2 months. It was all of camp with August, and it holds true right now. LSU's going to have to score. We can lament the defense and talk about the threat that the Ole Miss offense proposes and consider how many points. In the end, it's like, all right, you're just going to have to go score. And LSU's offense has been as potent as anyone's in the Southeastern Conference at this point. Been potent on third downs, been potent overall, been relentless when they've gotten into a groove against State and against Arkansas. That's going to have to continue Saturday evening in Oxford. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. 5 o'clock kickoff from Vaught-Hemingway, LSU and Ole Miss. We're talking about it for the next couple of days. It's a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Appreciate you spending some time with us during your workday. Congratulations to Beatsy Plaisance. Beatsy is our Week 4 winner in the 2023 Twin Peaks College Football Pick'em Contest. Wins a Twin Peaks gift card. Don't forget to make your picks for Week 5 by noon on Thursday. Play the 2023 Twin Peaks College Football Pick'em today at 1045ESPN.com. All right, we're moving right along here on this Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. When we come back, it's everyone's favorite segment to get irritated with. It's our SEC football power rankings. Got to weigh some things. A&M's got a new quarterback. Ole Miss got beat in Tuscaloosa. What did Auburn look like? Not great. LSU and Arkansas, do they move? I'll give you all of it when we come back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Officially, it's a fridge full of beer. Unofficially, it's free AC. Coors Light, the official beer of everything unofficial.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. I think we're rocking and rolling.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
On Thursday's OTB, let's open up another week of football as we talk a little Thursday night, preview the biggest matches in both college and the NFL. We have Caroline Fenton stopping by off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, it's that time. Wednesday, 2:30, SEC football power rankings. 2 weeks ago, I gave you my SEC football power rankings, and I felt zero confidence in said power rankings. And sure enough, I had to basically just redo the entire thing for last week. But last week, after I finished, I said, I think I've got this pretty well licked. I've seen 3 weeks. Most teams have played two bad teams and one good team. I think I got it figured out. And for the most part, I feel pretty good about what we did last week. We've made a couple of tweaks. No question, we made a couple of tweaks this week. But I think we're on the right track with our power rankings. So let's get into it. And we start at the top with number 1. Georgia has lost one and has had one SEC game decided by single digits since November of 2020. That was last year's Missouri game. One win, because they haven't lost any. One win in the regular season by less than 10 points since November of 2020. They're just beating everybody by 2 touchdowns. I don't think it's the greatest team in the world, but it's good. I put them at 1. That's where I had them last week. No change. I had LSU at 2 last week. I'll keep them there. The defense is a concern, but every single team that I'm going to go through has a legitimate large concern. LSU's is the defense. That's a big deal. It's specifically the pass defense. I don't feel great about it. And if I ended this, in 6 weeks and LSU was closer to 6 than 2, I wouldn't be stunned, but it would probably be on the defense at that point. But right now, I've got them at 2 because their offense is his best in the league, and they're 2-0 in league play. So we'll take LSU at 2. I did move Alabama up a spot this week to number 3. Get this. This is not making any. This is the real world here. Alabama is dead last in the SEC in total offense. 14th out of 14 teams, dead last. They are 89th nationally in total offense. They're 13th in the SEC in passing offense. They are 13th in the SEC in sacks allowed. They have significant problems, and they weren't good on offense on Saturday. But their defense smothered Ole Miss. Their running backs are talented. Their quarterback can throw a deep ball. they got major issues on offense, but they're big and bad, so we'll put them at number 3. Up a spot from 5 to 4, even with today's news, Texas A&M. Their defensive front did not rush the passer against Miami at all. They overwhelmed Auburn. Overwhelmed them. I don't think Max is a huge drop-off. I think Wigman is an A SEC quarterback. I think Max Johnson's a B SEC quarterback. I would take Max Johnson over a number of starters in the SEC. Anybody Auburn's got, anybody Florida's got, anybody Vanderbilt's got. Brady Cook at Missouri, I'd still take Max. Like, I think he's a middle-tier SEC quarterback. They got weapons. We'll find out. Their next 3 games, Arkansas and Jerry World, Bama in College Station, at Tennessee. That's their next 3 weeks with no bye. I think they're dangerous. We talked about whether or not the quarterback shakeup would mean anything if things went sideways for A&M over the last 2 months, back in What If Wednesday. And Nookie in the Bayou Ford chat said, hey, you can't bury A&M. That's a little scary. And I'm not burying A&M at all. I've got them at number 4 in the league. That's with Wigman out. I think they're a decent team. Back 2 spots is Ole Miss. They're now at 5. They just can't find the run game. And we'll see if they can this weekend, but they cannot find the run game right now. I mentioned this in the last segment. Quinshon Judkins rushing yards, game by game, 60, 48, 37, 56. This was an easily over 100-yard rusher in almost every game last year, and they can't find it this year. That's a big problem. But their defense has improved. They played good defense against Alabama. Their quarterback's playing really well. They just got to find the running game. That's the piece that they're missing. Hopefully they don't find it on Saturday. This is a team that could move upward mobily here over the next few weeks. They could drop, but they're a team that I think I could buy stock in right now that would move up potentially, and that's Kentucky. Had them at 6 last week, have them at 6 this week. They took advantage of a very cushy first 4 games. The next 4 are against teams that are currently ranked, and 5 of their next 6 are against teams that are currently ranked. They've got the best run defense in the SEC right now, and Florida's coming to Lexington wanting to run the football. We'll see. I kind of like Kentucky right now, but I am very, very aware of the fact that they haven't played anybody. Just a putrid opening month for Kentucky schedule-wise. But I think they're decent. I've got them at number 6. I still have Tennessee at number 7. They haven't moved either. There is nothing on Tennessee's resume right now outside of losing to Florida. Nothing in the win column is impressive. Virginia is winless. They're the only Power 5 team that's winless. That's who Tennessee opened with. They got to prove something against South Carolina in a revenge spot at home. They're going to wear those stupid black uniforms. It'll be crazy in there in Neyland, but they need to beat South Carolina after what happened last year. I do have Florida at 8. This is the one that drove everybody nuts last year. How could you have Florida at 8 and Tennessee at 7? We just watched that game. Florida pushed them around. Florida beat them. I know. Florida got smoked opening weekend against Utah. I'm not going to be totally beholden to head-to-head results all year long. I think Tennessee's a little bit better than Florida. I might be proven dead wrong. We'll see. But I think they are. Florida is last in the SEC in points per game. They're last in the SEC in 20-point plays. They scored 1 touchdown on Charlotte on Saturday. Okay? 1. So I'm not ready to just anoint them significantly better than Tennessee based on 3.5 hours in the swamp. But I think they're same as they were last week. That's number 8. South Carolina's number 9. They can't run the ball at all. They tried against Mississippi State. They handed it off 47 times. They got 144 yards. That's 3 yards a carry. It's not great. But Rattler's been excellent. Here's a big concern with South Carolina. And I know that their schedule has been pretty tough. Played North Carolina, you played Georgia. Like, you've played as tough a schedule as anybody in the league, but you're still last in the SEC when it comes to total defense. That's a concern. No run game and a poor defense is a good way to get yourself beat. We'll see what they do this weekend in Neyland, because I think Rattler's really good, and they're putting a lot on his plate, but that's a concern for me with South Carolina. I've got them at 9. Arkansas lost last week, but I did move them up a spot. They need Rocket Sanders back, but KJ Jefferson will give them a chance. I think he'll give him a chance on Saturday. In Jerry World, I think he'll give him a chance against most of the teams that they play. Certainly did against LSU. But the roster's not great. It's just not. So I did move Arkansas up from 11. I've got them at 10. Another team that's up one spot, and this is the one everybody's going nuts over, I'm sure. Where's Missouri? You've already gone through 10 teams. Missouri's at 11. Yeah, I know they're ranked. They're ranked because the pollsters are hardwired. They're 4-0. Rank them. Well, that team lost. They got to drop. No, they don't. Team doesn't have to drop because they lose. It's just the way we operate. We're so beholden to the number to the right of the dash that, Missouri's undefeated. Rank them. Well, who'd they beat? Kansas State? Sweet. I'm not going to give you too many kudos for that. They beat Middle Tennessee State by 4. They beat Memphis by 7. They're fine. They're a fine team. They're not very good. I'm not going to give them a ton of credit until LSU goes up there and Missouri kicks them all over the field. That'll be the point where Missouri will break me and I'll move them up into the top half. But for right now, you beat Middle Tennessee State by 4 points? I don't think so. Just my thought. Auburn did drop 2 spots this week. I was a little too reactive with War Eagle. They're not good. They got no quarterback. They're 113th in the country in passing offense. They scored 14 points at Cal, and on A&M, they scored 3 offensive points. 10 in the game, but they had a scoop and score. So you talk about the 2 Power 5 games they played, their offense has put up 17 points. That's brutal. I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. Their defense is not bad. They're veteran in the secondary. They've done a pretty good job. But when you just give them nothing from the offensive side, it's hard to expect much, and they're giving them nothing from the offensive side. So I do have Auburn at number 12. I left Mississippi State at 13. They may be better than Auburn. We'll see. But I'm scarred by what I saw when LSU went up there. They're 13th in the SEC in scoring defense. They're 10th in the SEC in scoring offense. They got out of their shell against South Carolina, and Rodgers threw for a bunch of yards, and they rolled up 30 points, and that's good. But you gave up 41 to LSU, and you gave up 37 to South Carolina. You look at those 2 weeks, you're averaging giving up about 38.5 points. That's not good in SEC play, and I don't trust that offense to make up for that. They almost did against South Carolina on the road, so maybe they're getting better. But I don't feel super awesome about State. And it should be no surprise, Vanderbilt comes in at 14. They are giving up 32.4 points per game. And you think, that's a lot. Like, who have they played? Hawaii, Alabama A&M, not Alabama and Texas A&M, actual Alabama A&M, Wake Forest, UNLV, and Kentucky. And in those games, they have given up 32.4 points per game. Not good. So we'll run through the power rankings one more time, starting at the top. Georgia's number 1, LSU number 2, Bama at 3, Texas A&M number 4, the Ole Miss Rebels at 5. At the 6th spot, I've got Kentucky, 7, Tennessee, Florida is at 8, and South Carolina is at 9. That's 6 through 9, same as it was last week. Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida, and South Carolina. Then 10 through 14, Arkansas at 10, Missouri at 11, Auburn at 12, Mississippi State at 13, and Vanderbilt at 14. Those are my SEC power rankings. Not a ton of movement. Bama moved 1 spot up. A&M moved 1 spot up. Ole Miss backed up 2 spots. Arkansas moved 1 spot. Missouri moved 1 spot. Auburn moved 2 spots. Had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams out of the 14 that stayed the same. I feel like I've kind of found the sweet spot there. The 2 schools that I'm looking at that could make a move here, Auburn could back up. They could be the 13th ranked team ahead of Vanderbilt. And I think Kentucky could prove itself to be better than the 6th spot it's in right now. But we'll see. They've got to play some real teams. I guess that starts coming up this week with the Florida Gators. Those are the SEC power rankings. We'll come back, play some Take It or Leave It, and close out a Wednesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com. David Duvall and his team, 3 decades in the biz, redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. There's a loved one in your life who wants to stay in that home but may need some help in terms of safety, especially around the bathroom where it gets a little slippery. David Duvall and his team can help with that. Walk-in showers are so convenient, tubs, so convenient, so much safer for your loved one. Maybe some guardrails around the shower, around the toilet area. David Duvall and his team can handle that. get them out there with a free consultation. Go to onebathandclosets.com. You can see the testimonials. You can see the pictures of their great work, and they can help you out with that. If you're looking for a fully redesigned, remodeled bathroom, they can do that. They can help you out with your closets if they're cluttered. I know that applies to a lot of us out there. David Duvall and his team can certainly help. Go to onebathandclosets.com, onebathandclosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you.
Join me, Jimmy Ott and Charles Handiger, for the Thursday edition of Live at Lunch, live from Jolie Pearl and Town Square Pizza. We're downtown, Jolie Pearl, Town Square Pizza, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Thanks, y'all, for hanging out over the last 2 hours on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Half that work week in the rearview mirror. We are working towards the weekend. Got a big show for you coming up tomorrow. We'll have Luke Johnson, who covers the Saints, obviously, for The Advocate. Excuse me, with us every Thursday. And Stephen Willis from Locked On Ole Miss will come on, talk about the Rebs. We'll dive pretty deep into LSU and Ole Miss tomorrow. I try not to do that on Tuesday and Wednesday, because then what do you do on Thursday and Friday? So we try to do some different things. But as of Thursday, we are full steam ahead talking about the Rebs and the Tigers. So looking forward to tomorrow's show. We got one more order of business here on today's show, and that, of course, would be take it or leave it.
All right, first one here. Talking about Ryder Cup host city Rome, Golf Channel analyst Paul McGinley said that Italy is the greatest country in the world. Take it or leave it.
I heard that. He gave his reasoning for it. Said they have the best food, which I'm not going to beef with him there. Pretty good. He said they have the best fashion, which a lot of your Italian fashion designers, I think that would qualify. He said they have the best cars. You're talking about Ferrari and some of those that are pretty good. He said they have the best coastline, which I have actually seen. I haven't done much traveling internationally, but I have seen the Italian coastline, and it's pretty stunning. And then he said they're the best looking race as well. So it's a compelling case that Paul McGinley makes. But look, it's Ryder Cup week. Got to put on the stars and stripes. Maybe we're the best country in the world. So I'll leave it. But that was a pretty compelling case. I got to be honest. I can't. What have we done food wise? Cheeseburger. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Ricky Bobby, chimichanga.
Yeah, it's all the things we don't actually have.
Pizza, Italy. Chimichanga, Mexico. Quality.
All right, moving on. Damian Lillard was traded to the Bucks in a 3-team trade today. The Bucks are now the favorites to win it all. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. Lillard's pretty good. The Greek guy they've got is pretty good. So I think that's it's a pretty good team that they've got. It's I'm curious because we've seen the NBA kind of go through phases where like what LeBron and Wade and Bosh did started an era of trying to group like 2 or 3 guys and then like figure out the rest. And the Warriors did it through the draft, basically outside of the Durant years. But this is kind of the wave of the future. And then you saw the Bucks break through, and you've seen some teams that have put great teams that didn't necessarily do that. And then you've seen some of the teams that tried the super teams like the Nets and whatever, and it just fell apart and was a disaster. I guess one moral of the story is just don't sign Kyrie Irving. But this is what the Bucks hadn't done, and now they're doing it. So I think that's interesting. Sure, I'll take it. I'll put them as the favorite. Why not?
Mac Jones is a dirty player. Take it or leave it.
It's not great video footage for Mac. I'll be quite honest with you. I don't know that one instance.
Well, last year, yeah.
What did he do last year?
He had 2 unnecessary roughness penalties last year. I don't remember the exact incidents, but I do remember. I read the article today about the incident, and he got 2 unnecessary roughness penalties last year.
You sold me. Take it. I'll take Mac Jones, definitely dirty player. I don't remember those, but I know over the weekend he was doing some things you really don't need to be doing, and I don't understand how this continues to happen when everyone knows that everything they do is on camera. Everything you do is on all the cameras. We can zoom in, we can slow-mo, we can sync up multiple cameras to get what we need. You can't get away from the cameras. It's like golfers, Patrick Reed's trying to pull a fast one on people. You can't punch people anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. Unless you're on the bottom of a 20-man dog pile, what you do is going to be exposed, and I guess Mac figured that out.
Yeah, Jones was fined twice last season for unnecessary roughness and once for unsportsmanlike conduct. So
dirty player. Find the Tide.
Last one here. Lane Kiffin loves the SEC teleconference call. Take it or leave it.
I listened to him today. I mean, Casey, do you have this sound? We got like 3 minutes.
No,
it's on this. It's on the sheet. Kiffin. I tweeted this out. His performance on the teleconference today was truly virtuoso. I have never heard anyone less enthused about anything in my entire life. You got guys on there asking about the clock and new first downs. You got guys asking about Michael Trigg, a player he dismissed from the team. And Kiffin's heart rate never got above 6 beats a minute. And he was just utterly annoyed the entire time. As I put out on Twitter, he sounded like he would rather try to eat a box of rubber bands than answer one more question about the clock or it's the tight end that quit the team or whatever. I can't even do an impression. It was like, it's just dumb. It was unnecessary. It was like, it's 8 minutes. Can you just show a little energy and enthusiasm? That teleconference, man, it's great in theory, and there are some folks that take it seriously or that get information out of it, and some coaches that play. Kiffin would rather jump out his window than do that teleconference at all. And that act that he has is charming, the Twitter aspect of it, and this little thing that he banters back and forth with the media when you win. But when you lose, you just look like a petulant child. And, like, I'm not anti-Lane Kiffin. Like, he coaches for a team that I don't like, and he's a threat to LSU, but I think he's more human than a lot of coaches are. They're very robotic, and that's something that is boring. But there's no question that, like, if they continue to lose and continue to not win these big games, and then he acts like this, like, it's just unbecoming. And it's gotten him on kind of the negative side of things with Ole Miss fans. I've listened to a lot of Ole Miss podcasts over the last 3 days. It's kind of what I do early in the week to get my information to throw at you later in the week. And, like, vibes are not great around the Lane Kiffin situation. He's nowhere in the stratosphere of getting fired. That's not what I'm talking about at all. It's just, like, confidence level. It's just not. There's just not a lot of positivity right now, and that's what can happen after one loss. But he was anti the SEC teleconference. He didn't want any part of that. All right, that's it for a Wednesday show here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Open things up, talking LSU and Ole Miss, and who's it a bigger game for? Gave my thoughts on that. JD Picquel of On3 Sports with us in his normal spot at 1:15. What if Wednesday? Some Saints roster moves on the practice squad. Does La'el Collins fit in New Orleans? Had some sound from Matt McMahon on LSU basketball, some sound from Braden Swinson on containing Ole Miss's running attack, and then those SEC football power rankings. If you want to catch the show on demand, we invite that. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or on YouTube, where you can find us each and every day. All right, fired up for tomorrow's show. Matt Moscona is about to drive you home on After Further Review. We will see you tomorrow on the Hunt Palmer Show.